I'm sure by now the vast majority of people in my audience have consumed a great deal of content and information, speculation, and theory regarding the event that happened last night near Washington, D.C. For those of you who haven't heard, a United States Army Black Hawk helicopter on a training evolution collided with a regional jet, American Airlines, that was on final approach to Reagan National Airport. Both of the aircraft plummeted into the Potomac into shallow water, and there have been no survivors recovered. I know everyone has an opinion on this, that something must be amiss, but the only thing amiss from my perspective, having been in the Army and knowing a little bit about this, is that there's a particular type of technology that is problematic that I think needs re-examined. And I've thought this for a long time. It's never really come up. But don't be surprised if in the coming weeks you start to hear this particular technology being brought up once the investigation finally gets some traction. Now, it's only been a day, but there has always been this issue with the Black Hawk. And while a lot of former military guys think it's a great airframe, it's a fantastic airframe, it has its limitations. And there is a concept in the military called 2 is 1, 1 is none. And I think that particular phrase is going to be brought up more and more in the coming days. Now, real quick, as always, before we get into this, I'm going to explain this in full here in just a minute. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's joined us, Florida Maquis Patreon channel. Love to have you over there. $1 per month, even less if you sign up for an entire year. Fully refundable, first 90 days, no questions asked. If you like this kind of content, join us over there. I could very much use the help. I have it set at the lowest possible allowable level, 3 pennies a day, $1 per month. Make a huge difference in my life. Without any further delay, let's get right to it. 2 is 1, 1 is none. And the most important aspect of that is when it comes to vision. One of the reasons you cannot serve in the military if you only have one eye is because you lack depth perception. You lack field of view. And that is the problem, I think, that they're going to show caused this incident. Now, wait a minute. You're saying the pilot only had one eye? He might as well have. More than likely what's happened is this particular training evolution, the pilots were likely using NVGs, night vision goggles. There have been crashes before in the U.S. military at night that wouldn't have happened had the pilots had proper field of view and proper depth perception. Now, go back to this map real quick. The American Airlines flight path, designated in blue here, is a set path. It's not deviated from. And when this craft came in and it was getting ready to make its landing here, I'm sure at some point when the Army helicopter was coming this direction, he probably had those lights in his field of view. But when he made this turn, they went out of his field of view. And he had very little ability to judge depth and the speed at which he was closing with that aircraft because of the night vision goggles. It messes with your ability to see from left to right, and also your ability to judge how far things are away and how fast you are closing on them or they are closing on you. Now, you can see a pretty picture of what's right in front of you, but even when you look up NVGs, they talk about this limited depth perception, narrow field of view, and no color vision. I don't think the color really matters here. What we're looking at here is most NVGs have a field of view of about 40 degrees, which is much, much narrower than the 210 to 240 degree field of view needed for effective aircraft operation. NVGs make it almost impossible to judge distance. Colored, in this particular case, like I said, doesn't really matter. The quality is dependent on ambient light, and if the ambient light is varying quickly, it can make it very, very difficult to make snap decisions. To give you an idea, this is what 40 degree field of view is versus 50 degree field of view. You're basically looking through 2 toilet paper roll tubes. Now, what you see through those tubes is very well lit up and very detailed, But when you're either driving or operating some type of a vehicle, whether it's an aircraft or even a four-wheel vehicle here on the ground, I would never want to be restricted to this and not be able to look to windows to my left and windows to my right. Imagine blacking out your entire vehicle at night so that you couldn't even see out, and you only have the two circles in front of you. Imagine how unnerving that would be to drive a car that way. Now imagine driving an aircraft that way. And here's a great article, tacticalflying.com, night vision goggles, are they for you? This is the San Diego Police Air Support Unit. They talk about this and the limitations and how unbelievably difficult it is to operate just one aircraft and to operate it safely and effectively. One of my big questions is, when it comes to 2 is 1, 1 is none during training evolutions, where was the second aircraft? In virtually every training evolution I've ever been a part of, you have somebody up who's actually doing the training, and then you have an aircraft up for overwatch, just for safety. The military does this in virtually every branch, in every possible theater of training you can think of. You always put out an observer for training, especially, in fact, it was mandatory if you were going to be engaging anywhere in civilian areas, maybe not on base, but in civilian areas like this, you had a second aircraft up. And in this particular case, if my understanding of the circumstances around the event are correct, if this particular helicopter had been 100 feet higher or 100 feet lower, we wouldn't be talking about anything today regarding this. So that would be something that they might look at with Overwatch. 2 is 1, 1 is none. But this is just from 2023, a couple years ago. Recent U.S. military helicopter crashes and training missions. And you go right through here, and there were 2 in Alaska here, and there's a rollover with some Apaches, but 2 Blackhawk medical evacuation helicopters crashed during a routine nighttime training exercise in southwestern Kentucky on March 29, killing all 9. The 2 Blackhawks were flying during a training exercise, and the pilots were using NVGs. The accident occurred during flying and not during the course of the drill. And basically the idea where there was is that they just didn't have the ability to judge how far they were away from each other and how fast they were moving. And this, to me, is the smoking gun on this. Because the grainy footage that we've seen of the video shows that the helicopter just sailed right into his path. Didn't try to move one way, didn't try to stop, didn't do anything, didn't see him. He didn't see him, and even on approach, that craft is still moving incredibly fast. I'm not sure exactly probably how fast, they're going to determine that, but fast enough that this aircraft would have not been able to get out of the way in time if he didn't see him. So, just saying, I think this is just basically that. And let's see if I can, this is actually a great example of even the newest NVG technology that they have out there. They say it's like something out of a video game. As you can see here, even with the outlines up, it's very difficult to determine how far away these soldiers are firing and how far they are away from the actual perspective of the person watching. And like I said, this is the newest iteration. This is the brand new stuff, where it can, delineate different types of things and different types of heat and different colors and outlines. And like I said, this is pitch black. The depth perception is just gone, and the field of view is just not. This is the entire field of view of what you would be seeing. I mean, imagine having, like I said, nothing, if you're sitting in a car, absolutely no view of anything from the dog leg to your left, and absolutely no view of anything from your rear view mirror, inside rear view mirror to your right. The only thing you can see, everything else is blocked out, is directly in front of you and only in a couple of circles. And then on top of that limited field of view, on top of that, the depth perception just goes away. I would never want to drive like this. So I will leave it there, just leave this image up. So I'm sorry if this disappoints anyone, because I'm sure a lot of folks wanted to read more into this than what it was, but don't be surprised if it comes just right down to this. Just a type of technology being applied in a way that it really shouldn't be applied. So, at least not in this scenario. Because in this scenario, very, very busy area, lots of aircraft, lots of traffic, you're in a civilian area. The military's had a problem doing this when it was literally on its own base with no civilians around, no random things going around, and they still crashed a couple of helicopters. So, just saying, I will leave it there. Thank you for your patience. All of you out there, join us on Patreon. Very, very much appreciate it. Making a huge difference in my life. God bless. Love to have you over there. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. See you guys next time.